was waking up, I had just a moment of remembering us. I keep forgetting that this we're like that. No matter what the plan, you always disappear like that.
What's up? Welcome to Did You Hear That? With Eric Clark and Sean Thompson. Tonight we are interviewing my longtime friend, Anthony Conley, aka HANDSXFEETX. Big fan of yours, been a big fan of yours for a long time. We got connected through poetry. We've just been following each other's music for the last, almost 10 years now? It's been a long time, man.
Oh, man. Playing metalcore together.
Yeah, back in the metal days before either of us made a transition to any other styles of music. Yeah. But yeah, so tonight we're talking about a collab song. So on that note, I'll hand the reins over to Sean.
All right, I am still waiting for those lyrics to load on my end, but we can just kind of talk about the song in and of itself. We want to kind of talk about, the main themes, the things that when people ask you about your music, they don't quite always hit on with their questions, maybe things that mean something more to you than they would to the average person who's reading the lyrics with no context. So if you want to just start
let's start with the song name, and then we'll go from there.
Sorry.
Spawn of Jesus.
Oh,
Spawn of Jesus, featuring etc. etc. down here for me.
Downtown.
Brady Bunch style right here, just.
Right.
So Spawn of Jesus, and across the board, I've always liked the concept of just heavy music, because especially metal, it's unless you've listened to the album a million times over, right off the bat you don't really know what they're saying because it just sounds cool, and then it makes you go and read the lyrics, and then it's a whole nother experience. You're sitting there reading along with the lyrics and all that. So I've been I like bringing that energy to the heavy rap, heavy trap, whatever you want to call me, style. And it's like, because it just sounds dope just off the bat. Like,
Yeah.
I love music that I'm making. I love getting to just make high energy music that kids mosh to, and just bringing the same energy I did when I was in hardcore to the rap scene.
Yeah.
And then kids are just like, they're yelling these lyrics back at me, just like in a hardcore show, and just like, and then they like, it's making people like do the same thing. You go back and you read the lyrics, and then you're like, oh, yo, he's actually like speaking on some stuff, you know? Like, all of my lyrics are focused around suicide prevention, mental health, and just growth as a human being. Because like so many, pretty much every artist that's doing this heavy trap style, whether, or even just like emo rap across the board, it all is kind of like meshed together, you know. And I even have some like emo kind of tracks and stuff like that. Like whether it's Suicide Boys or Ghostman or Scarlord or Zillakami or X or anybody like that, or Peep or GBC, Wicca, like they're all very transparent. They're all very raw and in your face. And if it's like high energy, if it's like City Morgue and all that, and like, and Suicide Boys and all that. So it's like I'm drawn to that same energy. But as an adult, I can read these lyrics and understand that this is just somebody who's just sharing their heart. They're not really necessarily trying to be a hero. They're not trying to like be a role model. They're just being an artist, you know? But because it gravitated so heavy to this stuff, they've been turned to a role model of some sorts. And if an artist isn't wanting to be a role model, they're not necessarily focused on how the direction they're going. You know, they're just being transparent and they're just sharing their stories, and that's totally understandable. But what I wanted to do, I knew in my heart when I wanted to approach this genre and approach this, I wanted it to be a tangible way to help people heal. So all of my lyrics have some form of pointing towards hope. It's expressing the darker side of life. It's expressing the issues and the trauma that come along with mental health struggles, with suicide ideation, all things that I've struggled with my entire life, and getting us to the next step, because awareness is beautiful, and this music, this genre has all brought so much awareness. And we have, Gen Z is the most emotionally like connected generation that's ever walked this earth. They are self-aware. They are aware of their emotions. They're letting themselves feel. We're breaking the stigma of toxic masculinity, and it's a beautiful thing. But now that we have awareness, if it's not followed up with tangible, like what's the next step? If it's not followed up with action, with healing, then you're just screaming into the void. Like, I have depression. It's like, okay, yeah, a lot of us do. Now, what do we do about it? So my job as somebody who has been working in suicide prevention for the past 10 years, who gives lectures at local high schools on mental health, who's been working with the youth for the past 5 years directly, my job, my purpose on this earth is to help people heal. So if I can meet these kids where they're at, listening to this music, make dope freaking music that I love, that kids are moshing to, crowd surfing to, like all of this, but help them heal in the meantime, and meet them at the merch table, give them the opportunity to tell me their stories because they've heard my stories, make those connections with kids. And in DMs, I'm constantly in DMs just mentoring and counseling people and counseling kids and connecting with people on a deeper level is so much more than music. And I'm doing it already. This is my purpose, and it's only up from there. The larger the platform I have, the more people I can help, and that's my goal.
Beautiful. Honestly, that's what even before I knew your music, I had followed you on Twitter because of this. I had seen your posts about mental health and all the other things that you and everybody else have been posting, and it gave me hope. Then it was like 2015, 2016, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And I started listening to your music because of Eric a couple of years ago when he started posting stuff out and about, and then you guys had that first Sorrow Circle show. Like it was it was such an electric environment. Like there was so much just like love in the room. It was so much fun to be there.
Thank you. I'm so glad, because it's like, especially with Sorrow Circle, and like Sorrow Circle isn't like a rap collective. It's not just like a group. It's like, it's us. Like, it's everybody. Like, Sorrow Circle, if you want to be in Sorrow Circle, like, you're in it. We're trying to be this media platform that helps artists, gives artists the tools to be what they want, and just guides people through it as we're all learning and growing and healing. Like, that's what it is. And if you come out to a Sorrow Circle show, that's what we want. We want people to feel the love. Even if I'm screaming at the top of my lungs and jumping around on stage like crazy, like, it's love, you know? It's an expression. And so that's the nail on the head. And that makes me so happy to know that, like, we're already kind of like at that point. Obviously, there's always room for growth, and it's only up from here. But, like, that was our first show, and, like, everyone in the crowd was telling us exactly that they feel comfortable, they feel welcomed. I saw, like, old, rich, white Republicans having conversations with homies with 3-inch earplugs and just covered in tattoos, and they were just like, I just want to know about your life. I just want to know what makes you happy. And there was these conversations, and artists just like, they're like, who meet up, and they're just like, yo, like, let's collab, like, let's share Instagram and this and that. Now our projects have happened because of these shows, these 2 shows we've had. Like I can't wait until, like, across the board we can have shows again, because all my homies in the music scene, whether they're on the tech side or the stage side, they're hurting so bad right now, and it breaks my heart to see. And I'm so blessed to have a job that has allowed me to work through this pandemic. But, like, selfishly, I just want to play shows again. Like, I just missed it, you know? Like, it was so much fun. So it's like, I can't wait to see what it's like a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, how it's going to be, you know? It's only up from here.
It's got to be up from here. So let's talk about the lyrics. I mean, it starts off with the chorus. It seems like it's pretty straightforward. You know, boy, I might be a spawn of Jesus Christ, crucify, hang me up, I'll bleed and die. But what is it really?
So being covered in tattoos and having big ears and a freaking 00 in my nose, like, I understand that, like, I have an appearance, you know, like, and I do all this just because I love it, you know, like, I saw, like, the tribes that have stretched their ears and stretched their nose, and it's all about just, like, just growth and just, like, discipline and mind over matter. So that's why, like, I did it, because I always loved it, and it was just so interesting to me. So I've always loved, like, body modification, but I understand that coming with that comes the territory of old people and conservative people glaring at you. Exactly. Yeah. And anybody who has tattoos gets that, you know. And, like, I grew up Baptist, actually, and so when I got into metal, even if it was Christian, like in Penny Doom and As Lay Dying and, like, OG for Today, like, things like that, like, they were still just like, oh, that's evil, that's Satan, you know, this and that, like, holding a door open for an old lady, and I'm like, have a great day, and she's like, you're going to hell, I hope you know that. And I'm just like, God bless you, my story, you know. So I had this shirt from a brand called Half Evil, and the back of it says, hand delivered to your door, spawn of Satan, and it's like a demon hand, like, handing a baby over, and it's intense shirt. But I crossed out Satan and wrote Jesus on it. And in my head it clicked, and I was just like, if everyone's going to look at me like I'm a spawn of Satan, it's like, nah, like, I'm a spawn of Jesus. Like, for me, in my faith walk, and that's not to, like, project on anybody. I'm never going to Bible thump. I'm never going to tell you you're going to hell. Like, I love you no matter what you're going through. For me, that's what's kept me alive. That's what kept me from killing myself when I was at my lowest point, was my faith in Jesus and my love in God. And so that's just a declaration, you know, like, I'm not a spawn of Satan. As I wear a Hellboy hat. Shut up. I'm not a spawn of Satan. I'm a spawn of Jesus, you know. And, like, if you're going to crucify me for that, if you're going to crucify me because you think I'm a son of Satan, like, hang me up, I'll bleed and die just like my Savior did.
I experienced that without even the ties to Christianity. I just looked that way, you know, in high school. I wasn't necessarily somebody of faith, but I had hair down to my waist, you know, and I wore torn shirts and listened to hardcore, and people were like, look at this guy. Oh, what are you, a Satanist?
Yeah.
You. I mean,
oh, I love heavy music. Like, just
and most of the time I was listening to Blue October or like Journey. Come on now.
Breaking Benjamin.
Yeah. Okay,
Exactly.
cool. I'm assuming then that this next line kind of leads into that as well. It says, your doors ain't let me in, so I had to make my own way. I ain't mad at God. The path I walk is narrow, straight. Kind of that similar concept of the gatekeeping of Christianity.
Yep, exactly. It's if Western Christianity is going to be as whitewashed as it is, and just be the oppressor that it is, and that's not to say that like there aren't good people in Western Christianity. I have a lot of people. I only recently left the church, and I still got love for a lot of people in there. I'm not saying that everyone in Western Christianity is racist, but there is still systemic oppression. Like, it's still there. Systemic racism is still in the church. They are not exempt from it. And I mean, I didn't feel welcomed, and I didn't feel home there. So I'm going to make my own way, you know? And I'm not mad at God because people failed me. It's always been such a strange concept to me that like when bad things happen, people blame God because that's the easy outlet. But people just suck. A lot of people suck, and a lot of people are evil, and a lot of people are angry and just lash out and don't go to therapy and just project. And it's like, that's not God's fault. That's not the Creator's fault. That's not Jesus' fault. That's just humanity. I've failed people. I'm not perfect. I've hurt people, and I own up to that. Like, so I'm not going to be mad at God for the shortcomings of man, you know?
The next lines kind of, I believe, are lending to your state of mind as far as lack of inebriants, right? I ain't smoked trees because my lungs won't let me. I'm a pacifist, but boy, don't you test me. So you're not fighting anybody, but defend yourself.
Yeah, exactly. So pacifists, from what I've never like dived too deep into it, but what I am aware of is that obviously it's like no violence until there's no other option. And so I will never swing. I will never attack. I will never do anything. But if my loved ones or if the oppressed are being attacked, I will be the first to defend. So that's for the second half. The first half of that, obviously straight edge, and it's a play at being asthmatic. I can't smoke because my lungs won't let me, and I wouldn't smoke because I'm straight edge. Like, and I'm a pacifist, so I'm not gonna do nothing, and I'm not gonna attack you. I'm gonna have a conversation with you. But if you attack the ones I love, or if you attack the oppressed, like I'm gonna be the first there to defend them.
So then next couple lines, bastard, yes, still depressed, but blessed. Spoke to Satan. You say stop? Pause.
Spoke to Satan until the mind is scared to death. Keep talking in my ear, dog, I'm deaf. Yeah, bastard. My dad walked out of my life, so that's very straightforward. Still depressed but blessed. That's just a bar. Like, honestly, like when I wrote that, I was like, that's true. Cause like I have clinical depression. And so my brain automatically goes negative always. And that's something I've learned about myself and I've addressed. And I accept the fact that like, there's always going to be kind of weight on my chest. But I know at the end of the day, I'm still blessed no matter what. And then spoke to Satan, told him I ain't scared of death. I'm not. Genuinely, I'm not afraid to die. If that means I'm going to heaven when I die, amazing. If it means there's nothing when I die, I'm okay. Like, I've come to the point of acceptance because like I know that every single day I make the most of it, and I aim to just love people. And I have, my legacy is not me. If I'm focused on my legacy, building my empire, getting my money up, when I die, all that means nothing. But if my legacy is the people I pour into, then even if my name's not attached to it, it's going, and it already has. I know it has. I've had people tell me, praise God, that I mean, I have been the deciding factor of life and death. People, I've gotten that 3 a.m. phone call where somebody's like, I'm going to kill myself if you don't give me a reason to. And I talk them off the ledge, literally. And it's happened more times than I can count, you know? And that's not to pat myself on the back because I can't save nobody. I just help somebody find their purpose. And it's the power within them all along, you know? So I'm not afraid to die. My legacy has already been set in stone, and I'm okay with that. And I have no regrets, you know? And so I made my peace with that. And I keep talking to my ear, dog, I'm deaf. I'm deaf in my right ear. I have the mute symbol tattooed right here. So that's just another play on just bars, you know?
That's awesome. I have actually my left kidney tattooed on my back because I was born without my left one. So
there you go. Exactly. You feel it.
Very nice. Cool. So ooh, I lost my spot.
Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. Hang me by a noose just like they hung you. So that's basically like, no matter what somebody does to me, no matter what they're projecting, I understand more often than not. I mean, there is just pure evil in the world. We have experienced that violence without any reason, without any preconception. Like, we've seen that, but 9 times out of 10, people are just acting or out of ignorance, out of anger, out of projecting whatever it is. And that's straight from the word. Forgive our Father, for they know not what to do. You know? So it's just like, no matter what they're gonna do to me, just forgive them as I'm forgiving them. Hang me by a noose just like they hung you. Basically, it's what Jesus did. There's this term called righteous suicide, because if we're speaking biblical sense, Jesus being the Son of God, all he had to do, I mean, they even taunted him with it. They're like, you're the Son of God. Why don't you call his angels down to come save you? You know, like, him being the Son of God, he didn't have to take that. He didn't have to bear the weight of our sin and die on that cross. He was an innocent man. They proved him innocent in front of the whole congregation, but they still handed him over to crucifixion. So it can be considered suicide because he, being the Son of God, had the choice to let that happen. So noose being suicide, and then hang me up just like they hung you. You know, like, again, if you're gonna, I'm willing to be a martyr if it means that other people can find their peace.
Hell yeah, man.
That goes back to the chorus, of course. And then Eric, etc. The lyrical freaking I just love it too, because like when I was writing this song, I wanted this contrast of just like high energy and just like hype mosh, like just like let's lose our minds, you know. And then I wanted the verse to just bar out. And I was like, obviously Eric, you know, and we've had such similar like walks in our faith and our experiences and how we've like gone through it. And so it was just natural. And like he came over and it literally was just like natural. It was like magic. We got almost everything first take. And I was like, this is it, you know, this is exactly what it was supposed to be. So he did exactly what he needed to do. Yeah. So good.
All right. So, Eric, you want to talk about your spot?
Yeah. Yeah, like Anthony said, it was really easy. Like, I think this was the first thing that we collabed on.
Yep. Facts.
I was gonna say, because we'd been talking about it for a while, but like, I don't know if this was the first actual official thing that we collabed on. But yeah, you said like our relation to the subject matter of like religion and stuff was similar, and then our musical journeys lined up. Like, it just all kind of like, it was an inevitability that this song would happen. So yeah.
Okay, cool. So we can start with it then. From the state where they throw shade just to stay cool, grew up in the right tree, but bit the wrong fruit.
Bit the wrong fruit. Yep, that's basically like what that's a reference to is like, you know, growing up in Arizona, like heat is like a huge thing. But so I was just kind of like alluding to the idea of like the importance of shade and how much it's like basically a currency out here, but also like the idea of like throwing shade and like just kind of like poking at the idea of creatives that like steal from each other rather than promote each other, you know, like viewing being an artist as like a scarcity mindset kind of thing. But then it jumps into I grew up in the right tree, bit the wrong fruit, but a lightning and a strong root, everybody like hates you. That's like a reference speaking back to because Anthony said, I think there's like a component to faith and religion that even as I've stepped outside of it, I recognize the value of it. And so when I say grew up in the right tree but bit the wrong fruit, what I mean is like the lessons that I learned from my time in Christianity about selflessness and self-sacrifice, the ideas of like what Anthony was describing as like a righteous suicide, like the value of meekness, you know, like these types of lessons that I learned specifically through my relationship with Christianity are still things that I carry with me, even though I don't identify as Christian anymore. And so like a little bit of lightning in a strong root is the idea that like maybe the tree is gone, but like now like there's still something deep inside that was like a part of me. And then kind of like the part that I came out of like warring against in religion is that part of me that's like, oh, that's the part I kept. And the reason I don't like those things about you is because they war against the ideas of even what I understood God to be on both sides of that coin as a Christian and as a person who stands outside of like structured faith, like still being able to call out things that I see as just like, that's obviously ridiculous, you know, like, but then also like what I've learned as I've started to voice those types of opinions, how many people around me thought the same thing, but weren't talking about it because they were afraid to like step outside of their own social paradigm or whatever. So that's what it means by like everybody like me and that they hate you.
It's so good.
I like it. Awesome.
Yeah.
The next part is what is the point of your flex? If nobody cares that you're next, shit, nobody here is impressed with your obvious lack of intention.
Yeah, obvious lack of intention. Yeah, that's basically like about the idea of like, because that still a lot of this like kind of like universally applies not just to leaders in faith communities, but also just kind of like leaders in any type of community, in the sense that like if you're touting your like authority or wealth or all these different things, like the only reason that would matter would be if people were lacking those things and seeing the value of that thing in themselves. And instead of doing like the wonderful thing, like spreading that and like sharing that, you're like flexing your excess over other people's lack as a way to like self-validate, but kind of like pointing out the idea of like, if you're flexing without like an intention, or like you're like, if you're doing all these things, like the people that I surround myself with don't give a fuck about that. Like, you know, like we're like Anthony like has so eloquently put it so many different times in this conversation already. Like we're about like, I like to surround myself with people who are about purpose and intentionality and building each other up and that kind of stuff. And if that's not what you're about, like if literally, like Anthony said, if your legacy is only yourself, like I have zero interest in that, you know. Like I often think about the idea of like, nobody knows who was working in the local market in Egypt, you know, 4,000 years ago or whatever. But like they had an impact on people's lives around them. But I'm sure that there was still like some drive in that person to be like, I have to be remembered. I have to be remembered. But like 4,000 years later, nobody knows their name, you know, but their existence still mattered, you know, like the idea of like obsessing over legacy and like being remembered forever is just like, you look through the annals of human history and we can maybe like name 10 people, you know, like over like thousands of generations, you know, like it's just like the idea of like, what's the point of your flex if nobody cares that you're next, you know, like what's the point? But yeah, that's what that's all about.
The last couple of things here. I mean, this one feels like it might be a little bit straightforward. Kill your pride, push that bullshit to the side. When you bring up life and death, you realize it made you blind.
Yeah, well, I think like the deeper aspect of that lyric is like kind of like the play on like what I mean by so kill your pride, push it closer to the side. When you bring up life and death, you realize it made you blind. Like the it is kind of like, you can play with that a little bit, in the sense that like the idea of like, I was kind of like touching on the idea of like us living and then us dying. Like we define all of reality based on that one experience, but like all of reality is so much more than just the life that we live from open to close, you know? And so like when you let go of that, you realize, oh, the universe is way bigger than me and my perception of it. Then you realize the ideas of being alive and being dead are kind of like what get in the way of you being able to see that. Like you get so obsessed with being like, I have to be Eric Clausen at all times, you know what I mean? But it's like, but what was I before that? And what will I be after that? You know, like I'm sure that's much more important and much bigger, you know? And so, but then also it can be like, talking about it being pride and pride, because I think like in the progressive matter of that whole thing, you first have to recognize your own ego, and then you recognize the like your disconnect between like yourself and the universe, and then you progress to like killing your pride and pushing that to the side and being able to see. Yeah.
Okay. So this, in the version that Anthony sent me here, there's an extra piece that's not in yours. I forget if it's who's
This
it?
ain't politics. This is battle over knowledge, but all I taste is bitterness.
Yeah. That's the one. Like that's just kind of like speaking to the idea of like the universe doesn't care about whether or not you're Democrat, Republican, left, right, centrist, or whatever. You like, or if you're American, even, you know what I mean? Like so much of what I just said is like so centered on being American, but like, yeah, like it's just, sorry, can you repeat that, the lyric one more time? I don't remember it off the top of my head.
This ain't
politics. This is battle over knowledge, but all I taste is bitterness.
Yeah, and I think that like, so what that's speaking to the idea of is like talking about those kinds of things, like talking about the fact that you're more than just who you are as an individual. Like there's a connection between you and every living thing ever, you know, and like, just kind of like what that can do to your psyche and what that can do to like your potential as a human being. So you like reach out into your environment and you recognize like, you know, like you see these huge changes in people's lives when they experience like real love for the first time, and like real support when they come from like a family of toxic behavior and abuse and that kind of stuff. And, you know, like the value of those kinds of things. And I just think the same way about ideas of like knowledge and value and self-value and, you know, those kinds of things. Like if you, I think that there are people in this world that benefit directly from keeping people ignorant. And I think that if we removed that veil of ignorance and allowed the access to that kind of knowledge to all people, I think that globally we would all benefit from that. Like, but that, so when I say that like this is battle over knowledge, but all I taste is bitterness, is that the only reason I can see for us to not share all of that is bitterness, is that like that desire to just be small-minded and petty and controlling and afraid, you know, like it's just that desire and that need to control that is so like small and animalistic, you know.
The I suffered, so should you, or the I might suffer, so you should.
Yeah, that same kind of stuff. Yeah.
Okay. So that is the entirety of the lyrics, except for, of course, the end here, the crucify, spawn of Jesus Christ, where you kind of repeat the part from the chorus.
Yep.
Is there anything else you'd like to tell the audience? Any sort of message you'd like to give them beyond, obviously, the eloquent things you've already said?
Yeah, it's just, well, first I actually want to clarify, this is not a Blue Lives Matter flag. I just like, while Eric was like realizing that that's what it could look like, it's just a plain black and white flag upside down, because I understand and recognize that our country has a lot more work to do. So that's what that is. Yeah, it's just whatever you believe in, whatever brings you hope, just run after it full force. Don't let anybody dictate what you should or shouldn't believe in. as long as you're not hurting yourself or others, like, that's what I care about. Obviously, working in suicide prevention, I don't want nobody hurting themselves, and I understand and recognize how much projection comes with emotional blockage. And so as long as what you're chasing after, as long as what you're passionate about, as long as what you believe in, what faith you tie to, as long as it's not hurting yourself or hurting others, then I love you in that. And I just want you to know that you have purpose no matter what. And however you're living your life, especially with things you're passionate about, whatever you're passionate about, it's there for a reason. There's always that thing that when you talk to somebody, their eyes light up and they get super hyped. And whatever that thing is for you, find joy in it for yourself and then figure out how to use it to give joy to others. And that's how you find purpose in life. Anybody who's struggling with, like, what is my purpose? If your purpose is bringing joy to others and helping others and getting involved in your community, however that looks, if you're serving a cup of coffee as a barista like I do, like, whatever it is, if you're just aiming to bring joy, like, you have your purpose.
All right. So before our break, Anthony was giving a heartfelt, beautiful speech about motivating the rest of the world and bringing all the light and positivity to the darkest parts. Anything else you'd like to add now that you've lost your steam?
Nah, it's pretty much that. Like, there's, especially the people in power, I mean, we've seen it more this year than I think any of us have ever been aware of, being that everything is just right in front of us on our phone. We're all we got. So stop making it harder on each other. Like, simple as that. Things you're passionate about, bring joy to your life, bring joy to other people's life. And if you don't have a definite direction, at least it's forward motion. It is serving your community. It's forward motion, and you're leading a legacy of positivity. So if I can encourage anybody to do that, do that.
Okay, beautiful. So our last segment we like to do with each of our lyricists is ask, what is your favorite lyric? I mean, whether that's a lyric that's right now just kind of popped into your head because it's relevant, or one that's been your favorite for years. What do you got?
So it's funny. I couldn't break it down to more than, like, I had to do three.
I'm down.
So I'll just cover those real quick. A lot of people ask me this a lot, so I want this to be something where they can look back to for an answer. Where Hands and Feet came from. There's this post-hardcore, hardcore, pop-punk-esque band called Close Your Eyes. And they have a song, Something Needs to Change. And they have a lyric that says, who will be the hands and feet, who will go share this love with me? And that's been, like, embedded into my mind always since the first time I heard it, I think in, like, 2011. And that's always just been, like, my motto for life. It's just, like, especially being faith-based, I want to be the hands and feet of Jesus. That's always been, like, the term for that. Who will go share this love with me? Very simple, very direct, you know? Like, we have a job to do. Whether you're a Christian or not, you have love. You feel love, and it's your job to give that love to others. And so for a all-time favorite, like, bar that has always stuck with me as well, from rapper Earl Sweatshirt, all-time favorite lyricist, legitimately one of the, I can easily say, and nobody can argue this, he is one of the best lyricists of our generation, best MCs of our generation. He doesn't waste a single word. Earl Sweatshirt is what got me into poetry. His song Grief is one of his, like, most, like, transparent songs besides Chum. Chum is also very very transparent, very, like, personal. But when Grief came out from his album Don't Go Outside, I don't go outside. When that single dropped and that video dropped, it like shook me, and that hook just, good grief, I've been reaping what I sow. I ain't been outside in a minute. I've been living what I wrote. Just the concept of self-fulfilling prophecy, of just like, I've been living what I wrote. Like what I'm writing is exactly how I'm living. And if I'm not careful, I could be speaking negativity over myself. And if I'm just writing nothing but sad songs and sad lyrics, I'm going to stay in a sad place. And so it's always challenged me that even if I'm having a sad or angry or negative song at the beginning, it always challenged me to, at the end, finish it off with something positive. Because that's still, it's acknowledging that those things exist, but recognizing that you got to move past it. So the song Grief by Earl Sweatshirt, that bar has just like been another defining like aspect of my life. And lastly, Take It Back, Christian hardcore band from back in the day, hardcore, pop punk, whatever you want to call them. Song New Empires. They finished that song off with, and I remember like listening to this album front to back for the first time. I was on a bus to go visit a friend because I didn't have a vehicle at the time. And I just had this on a CD player that my friend burned for me, and I had my headphones in, and this album was just going. This is the second song of the album, and it finishes off with this line. It says, "I will be the change I want to see in the world." And I remember just sitting there, like I got chills, and I was just like, that's it. Like, you can talk about change all you want. You could preach change all you want. You could say how much other people need to change, but if you're not making the effort to change yourself, to be the change you want to see, then shut up. You have no room to talk. Like if you're complaining without coming with solutions, you're just part of the problem. You're not solving anything. You're just screaming into the void. So come with solutions and be the change you want to be. And so every single aspect of my life, that has been my desire. My goal is to be the change that I want to see. If I see that there's people in need in the community, I'm going to go do everything in my power to fill that need. If I see people are struggling with mental health, with suicide ideation, I'm going to help fill that gap and help them find healing and be that change that somebody may desperately need in their life because I needed it. You know, I want to be the role model that I needed when I was growing up. You know, my mom was an amazing person, is an amazing person. I love her to death. She is the reason why I am the way I am. And my stepdad as well, he did an amazing job. He treats me and my sister like we're his own flesh and blood, and I love him to death. But I struggled with it because my dad walking out, I struggled because he was my hero, and losing my cousin Matt to suicide, who was my hero. My everything was Matt. Like he was the person I looked up to more than anybody. And when he left, I was just so confused and so alone. And when my dad stepped out after his overdose, I was so confused and so alone. And those were my two main role models, and they weren't there anymore. And so I struggled, which is why I dove headfirst into music, because people who felt the way I did, you know, found it. So I aim to be the role model that kids may need because I needed it. So I'm aiming to be that change that I needed in the world, you know. And that's it. That's all I got.
Well, thank you.
Hell yeah, man.
I don't even know what else to say. Thank you.
Dude, yeah, honestly, thank you so much for coming onto the show. I love you to death. You're one of my favorite human beings for obvious reasons, I feel.
Hey, man, thank you for being on this track with me. Thank you both for having me, Sean, Eric, etc. This is just, I love this concept you guys have going because it's like, it's so easy to overlook, especially in rap and hip hop, like, and trap and just metal and hardcore. It's so easy to just be like, yo, that sounds dope. Like that beat hits hard. Like the beat that Lav wrote for
Literally anything.
Spawn of Jesus, hard. Like that song is just hard as heck. And like, I love being able to break the sound, and like you guys addressing like just like yo, lyrics are important to us, and why not have a podcast interview where we dive deeper into it and just show kids and show people who are listening to this music that like, yo, the beat may be hard, but like sit back and like truly see where the artist is coming from.
There's a lot more to it.
Well, that's
so
a lot of
much
it.
to it. So,
You know, I grew up as a metalhead, being told that I was a loser because I listened to the music nobody else liked. And I remember I had these girls that would mess with me. Oh, you know, the lyrics don't mean anything. And then I would send them just random lyrics and they'd be like, that's so pretty and that's so deep. And I'd be like, yeah, that's a death metal song you just read.
yeah, exactly. Thank you. Exactly. So I feel like we're all on the same page there. So
Beautiful.
Thank you guys for
Thank you.
And it's
Well, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your evening, Anthony.
Thank you.
I love you guys and appreciate you so much. And quick shouts out Sorrow Circle, shouts out Lav, shouts out etc. Shouts out Chicho, Dylan, everybody. There's so many people I could list off. My mom, I love you, Mom. You're my heart and soul. Shouts out God, and shouts out everybody in between. Everybody who woke up today and didn't think they were gonna make it through today. You made it. You're watching this, and I
Hell
love
yeah, man. That's a great note to end on.
Perfect.
All right. Have a good night, guys.
Night, guys. Bye.